So here they are, the ones that I'm going to talk to you about for reading. And that is phoneme awareness, that many of you know that are listening, some of you won't. And phoneme awareness is the ability to auditorily perceive the identity number and sequence of sounds within words. So if I say fip, fap, you should be able to tell me which sound changed. Fip, fap. The middle sound changed. If I change fap to fat, which sound changed? First, middle, or last? That's phoneme awareness, and you can identify that. Symbol imagery is the ability to auditorily perceive, but also visually image sounds and letters in words. So if I say frip, show me with your fingers how many letters you're visualizing. You should say, you have it on me? Matt? You should be showing me frip for 4 of them. Can you picture those letters? What's the third letter you're picturing in frip? Okay. If I change frip to frap, what's the third letter you're picturing now? Yeah. So that's the whole visual imagery for sounds and letters and words. And concept imagery is different than visual imagery. It took us some time to figure that out. This is a different type of imagery. This is the imagery that allows you to create a whole from language concepts that are coming in. So if I say, the one I always use is, there was a red-headed girl riding bareback on a white horse, the horse was running across the green field, and they came to a creek, and the horse stumbled and the girl fell in. Did you picture that? That's concept imagery. That's where you can activate those mental representations. So if we look at this K-12 pipeline, and we've talked about it already, weak language and literacy skills are the primary cause of a failure to make a year for a year. So what I've shown you on here is that we can see a child that's in 3rd grade, and that child could be a year below or even 2 years below where they should be, because something is happening to them early on at the sensory level that's not enabling them to gain a year for a year. And the 2 reasons that they tend to fail, not just at the sensory level, or that they fail, is they can have difficulty with language comprehension and they can have difficulty with decoding. So one time I did some diagnostic testing on a boy who was in 10th grade. I was flown to Florida to do a battery of tests, and he was he'd been retained twice, and he was still reading at a 3rd grade level. It was a young man that had tried at one point to commit suicide because of his reading problem. And he looked like this. So after all those years and even being retained, he still had barely brought his decoding level to that of a first or a second grader. And it wasn't an IQ issue. But not only could he not decode, he also had difficulty with language comprehension, so that when he was given an oral directions test, he had difficulty following the directions. So what I'm showing you on this slide is that this weakness that causes so many problems for so many children, really the weakness is caused by sensory cognitive functions that are not intact for students. And those sensory cognitive functions are concept imagery, symbol imagery, and phonological awareness. Have you got it? Okay. All right. What about Buzz and Natalie? There's been this focus on phonological processing and word reading skills, but what about language comprehension? I really don't believe that there's been enough focus on it. But more than that, what about orthographic processing and sight words for what I want to bring up to you is called global reading. And then the other question on here is, does strength and fluency and oral vocabulary guarantee reading comprehension? So I've got a couple of slides coming up that will show you some of Buzz's scores. But this is what I mean by global versus analytical reading. Analytical reading primarily focuses on phonological processing of words. So those are the children, I don't know how many of you have children in this situation, that are being taught to sound out a word. So when they're reading, every word becomes something that they have to process. That's what the focus is of analytical reading. Global reading primarily focuses on orthographic and contextual information. That's how you and I probably read. I'm hoping you read this way. And that is that when you're reading along on the page, you do not have to sound out every word. You do not have to phonetically process every word. Instead, you've got a bunch of words that you've memorized, and am I in the corner for these people, I hope? You've got a bunch of words that you've memorized, and you can use context cues. When do you need phonological then? You must be asking yourself, well, why even bother with that? Well, you can all answer it. What if you come to some words that you don't know? Then you want to have that to go back to. So it says global reading primarily focuses on orthographic and contextual information with phonological as a backup. So of these two, of analytical and global, which one do you think assists in reading comprehension? The only reason to read? Yeah, it's global. You have to be a global reader. You don't have to be, but you're going to have a better chance at comprehending. So here's Buzz. Buzz happens to be a boy that I did work with. He was in the Boston area. At the time of this testing, you can see that Buzz is in 7th grade. He's had numerous years of instruction, including some of our programs, and his word attack skills, he was very dyslexic and couldn't read, and we improved his word attack to the 95th percentile. And unfortunately, though, remember your circles, this is your test. Here's word attack, here's word rec, here's paragraph reading. Unfortunately, his word attack skills did not guarantee him word recognition skills. And without good word recognition skills, if you drop down here, his paragraph reading accuracy was not what it should be. And so I'm pointing that out to say that we know now that by reverting back to the approach of phonological awareness, we don't always get what we want when we are teaching children to read. Here's Natalie, guy in London. This is a girl that came over here from London. Her father called me and said, "Can you help my daughter? I've read your book and my daughter's getting sick before she goes to school. They're telling me that she has visual problems and they've moved her closer to the classroom." And I said we'd have to do some diagnostic testing to find out, and she actually went to our New York Learning Center, and this is what she looked like. Now remember your circles, right? Here's word attack, here's word rec, here's paragraph reading, and here's reading comprehension. Her oral vocabulary was at the 86th percentile. And for those of you that don't know how to think of percentiles, think of it like this. They go 1st percentile to 99th percentile. 50th is in the middle. A stay 9 down, a stay 9 up is considered normal range. So if we've got Natalie, a 6th grader, at the 86th percentile in oral vocabulary, how is she in oral vocabulary? She's good, that's right. How is she in word attack? That's right, this is good also, so if you're looking at that circle. How is she in word recognition? Great. How about spelling? On a phonological awareness test, she was great. On the symbol imagery test, she also did really well. All things that you would expect that she would do well on for that aspect of reading. But look what happens to her when she's comprehending language. This is an oral language, type of oral language comprehension test. Look at her in problem solving. Put her down, this is a paragraph reading test where she had to read paragraphs. Tell me where you see her weakness. Certainly it's not in how fast she read. Is it in how accurately she read? And you combine these two, is it in what's called fluency? No, but look at her reading comprehension. Her reading comprehension was the 2nd percentile. So now we've answered one of the questions that I posed to you. Is there a separate comprehension weakness? And yes, indeed there is.